Today on the TMZ Podcast.
Welcome to the TMZ Podcast. Harvey Levin here.
Jason?
Oh,
we already blew
Hold
it,
on.
Jason.
Senior first.
It goes
Senior
it
first.
goes in order.
Let's go. Age before beauty. Go ahead.
Jason?
And Derek here.
Well, then it's Harvey.
Jason?
Okay. So
Welcome back, Harv.
Thank you. There's a lot to talk about. Let's start with Tristan Thompson. I just think this is interesting. I want to give you my take on this. So Drake just dropped a music video, and there is a special appearance by one Tristan Thompson. And there are a lot of people now writing about this, people talking about it on social media saying, oh my God, because the premise of this is that Drake says, I finally want to settle down, I want to get married, and he's at a Jewish wedding, he's the groom, and it turns out there are 23 brides. And Tristan Thompson is the one beforehand who basically says, yeah, take the plunge.
As best man.
As best man, and it's clear that what Drake is saying is that you can't be just committed to one person, and that's the way he rolls, and that's the way some people roll. And people are writing this like, oh my God, I can't believe he dropped this. And the heels of Khloe Kardashian going crazy on the show, you know, saying how dare Chris. Well, of course, everybody knew this before the Kardashian show aired the other day. And Tristan Thompson, to me, is just leaning into it and saying, yeah.
That's exactly what he's doing. You say leaning in, I say rubbing her nose in it. I mean, he's doing a love poem to polygamy as the best man saying, take the plunge and marry a row of women. The video is kind of funny because it looks like he's marrying one woman and then you see an entire row of women that Drake is marrying.
With 23 rings.
With 23 rings. So he's sort of rubbing her nose in it.
You're both right. He is both at once. Tristan is saying, I am a polygamist and I am always going to be polygamist. I'm not a polygamist. He's going to marry more than one. He's going to involve polyamory,
yeah.
And he's going to have sex with multiple women. He's going to be in open relationships, and that's what he wants. It is also rubbing her nose in it because this special just came out. Khloe's clearly hurting, and what she was really upset about was not, according to Khloe, was not necessarily that he banged other women, but that he did it without protection. And he's never apologized for that.
But he's not talking about having children. He's just talking about.
I'm not talking about protection for children's sake. I'm talking about protection for
STDs.
not bringing STDs back to your wife. That's what Khloe was so upset about.
I completely misunderstood then the Kardashians because I thought what
It's
she was
both.
saying, I thought she was talking about don't have kids with them.
It's both. It's both. You wear
don't have
protection
kids
for
with them,
two
but you wear
reasons.
protection.
I never saw it that way.
If he's going to have other kids,
I understand your point,
Yeah,
but
yeah. Fair enough.
that's really interesting. I didn't see it that way at all. I thought it was just Khloe saying, this is ridiculous. Don't be with other women, but if you're going to do that,
Don't make babies.
don't make babies.
It's both. I read it as both. But here, the other situation that's different is this is him patting himself on the back. And this is what sort of bothers me about Tristan.
You're saying
Here's why
patting
I'll say
himself on
that.
the back. He's saying what he believes. This is the way
Not in the way you think. I don't think he's.
He
I
is
think
being
I
honest.
think
He's being honest with the world. He's like, this
Yeah.
is who I am.
I don't think this is who he is, and this is what bothers me about it. So I say patting himself on the back. I think he's spinning what he does. What he does is he was in a committed relationship with Khloe and cheated on her. A polyamorous relationship is entirely different. All of those women in the 23 dresses are on board. If Tristan wanted to be in a polyamorous relationship with Khloe, he could say, "Hey, do you mind being one of 23 women?"
I
That's
think he
not
pretty
what
much
he
said
did.
that with his
actions.
and he kept going back to her, and we don't know what
But
the
he's
private
calling himself.
we
this
don't know what the
right.
private
I mean,
conversations
that's
were like.
right.
Well,
And
we know what Khloe's reactions
well,
are.
no, but Khloe's reactions seem to be more about the baby.
It seemed to wrap it up. If you're going to do it, wrap it up.
Yes, but it's been framed as she's been the cheated on woman all of this
You know what?
time,
It's-
right? And
it's all
so what
kind
he's
of-
doing now is he's
yeah.
saying it's not cheating. It's I love lots of women and they're all on board. That's not the Khloe situation.
Well,
so
the
there she
Khloe
has it right.
situation is bollocksed up because you've got two things going on. The fact that he was with other women, but the fact that he also had a baby. And
Yes.
which one was more dominant in Khloe's head? When I watched it, I mean, I don't know what's in her head. I'm just a viewer. It seemed to me it was more
Feels like a
having the baby.
Yeah.
Well, that's what got him. That's what got him caught, and that's what embarrasses her. Is that the whole world knows about it, right? It's what got him caught. Because but
I
for
don't know.
knocking.
I think
someone up,
that's her second best option. She's like, if you're gonna do it, and I realize that you seem to do it a lot.
Right.
At least do it responsibly.
the video is fantastic, though. It is so funny.
It's
the
really
whole
good.
way through. It's really well
I gotta
done.
say, it's really good.
It's really good.
Okay, I want to. I can't wait to talk to you guys about this January 6th thing, this new thing between Trump and Pence. But let's first get into Amber Heard to kind of wrap this up because I think we've not heard from a juror yet. And I am fascinated by what this juror said. He's anonymous. He spoke to Good Morning America, did not want his name revealed. He wasn't on video, but he said a lot. And I was just fascinated that maybe there were two fatal errors, at least according to him, the way I understood this, that caused Amber Heard to lose this case. One was not just the swings between crying and being ice cold, as he put it, but looking at the jury when
staring, he said,
when she was doing it, because the way I understood this juror, it felt like performance.
Yeah. And it felt uncomfortable. He used the word uncomfortable when he said she would turn and stare at us, which they didn't like, and that sounded performative. And you could see it during her entire testimony. She would get the question from direct or cross, and then turn to the jury.
It's almost like it's almost like he was saying she would look at the lawyer and say, "Line."
Yes. And then next question, she was like, calm again.
And Harvey, you said it yesterday, and I think you're absolutely right. We had a pure he said, she said. They had two different stories about the exact same conduct. He said he never touched her. She said he hit me. That's the ultimate issue in the case. The jury had to determine. They looked at her, looking at the jury, not seeming particularly truthful, to be the proxy for credibility. And they found that these antics, these looking at the jury, these pretend cries, all this stuff they found that non-credible, and they found her non-credible as a result. And therefore, when the he said, she said question came down to their deliberations, they said, we believe that he is
and one other thing, though. I think it matters that both of them are actors. I think it really mattered, and that they were looking to see whether these professionals were acting or telling the truth.
But which way does that cut? Johnny Depp is the bigger actor and the better actor, so he gave a more convincing performance, and she's a worse actor.
No,
so
they're saying he gave
not okay because then they're both acting.
They're saying he gave no performance by being like between the lines the entire trial.
Isn't that a great performance?
That's a great performance.
I mean, I understand that.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
But it comes off as more authentic.
And they're like, you're a better actor.
When you watch that trial, you had to come away with the conclusion that she seemed non-credible. She seemed like she was performing, and maybe you're saying, well, that's because he's a better actor. She seemed totally inauthentic. That the whole thing totally inauthentic.
Right, but I don't credit his ability to convey himself as definitely authentic. He's just better at doing it.
Derek, he may have not been.
He may.
She may
too.
Maybe it wasn't acting. It was holding back what he really. I mean, I think there's a lot of rage that Johnny Depp feels because he says she ruined his life, and I think he withheld that rage and was very calm and never broke that way. And when you compared it and contrasted it to Amber on the stand looking at the jury, it felt more like he wasn't acting and she was.
Yeah, he wasn't chewing up scenery like Joe Pesci, and she really went for it. But I'm still saying both could be acting, right?
No,
and the problem is he might have taken the tone of like, if I stay calm, it'll be a better performance.
The three of us don't know what happened. We can only look at the evidence that was presented, the way it was presented. And when you watch that, it's very hard to take her to look at her and think, I believe every word she's saying. It's very hard.
Well, but the second thing that, to me, that I'm a little surprised at this because I felt it was relevant, but I didn't think it was critical. What really seemed to sink her was the donations, the $7 million that she received from Johnny Depp as a settlement in the divorce, where she said that it would be split evenly between the ACLU and Children's Hospital. I was told early on by somebody, she's never going to give that money. You will see. And sure enough, that's what happened. And she lied about it when she was on TV in Britain, saying she gave the money to the ACLU because she tried to shade it in the trial in the United States by saying, I pledged it and I don't see a difference between a pledge. And Camille Vasquez said, bull. And, and the jury wasn't so much interested in that exchange as they were what she said on that television show.
I agree.
That she was a liar. And they said it was devastating for her.
You've said countless times during this, it's not, if you catch someone in a clean lie, and this was as clean as they had. She said in Britain, gave, and on the stand in her trial, she said pledge is different than donate and tried to be cute with it. It was the cleanest lie they had her on. And that tells the jury, if she lied about this, which is pretty damn apparent, she could have lied about the entire thing.
And what is she lying about? She's lying about giving money to charity that she never gave.
A horrific
It really
lie.
shows no intent of giving. It's a horrible, horrible moment. I was surprised to hear it because it hadn't been the focal point of the trial, the discussions. But looking back, it's obvious they would hold this against her.
And I agree with you. If capable about lying about charity, then you start to think the person is capable about lying about anything.
What did they call it? A fiasco?
Yes, a fiasco. The juror said that was a fiasco.
And also the juror was interesting, saying, all these, everybody was saying, in fact, Amber's lawyer said on TV that social media sunk her.
Yeah.
And he said, bullshit. He said, we didn't,
few of us
three
didn't
of us don't even go on social media.
Right.
Let me ask one more question. You were a trial lawyer, Jason.
Yes.
Part of what the juror said that struck me was the eye contact part, that she was staring at us and it was uncomfortable. When you tell a witness, they're supposed to actually communicate with the jury. That's part of preparing your witnesses to say, you're not telling the story to me, you're convincing those people. And that's part of what a lawyer tells. Did she just overdo it and mismanage the balance?
Way. It came off as so inauthentic when she was like turning and staring and crying in a moment, not crying in a moment, and vacillating between rage and passivity. It was just the whole performance was very, very odd and in the wrong way.
She took the wrong note.
You do tell your witnesses to connect with the jury by looking at them from time to time.
I don't want to,
and they held it against her.
I don't want to pour salt in the wound, but a lot of people are saying, can Amber Heard come back? And we talked about this on our special on the Johnny Depp, Amber Heard from Love to Hate. By the way, unavailable on Hulu now. But movie studios might say, it's not so much that she lost the case, but she was such a bad actress during the case.
I bet you should get like a Razzie for this performance.
Not to rub salt in the wound, but you just dumped a pile of Morton on her open wound.
But that's essentially what the jury said. That is essentially what
not only
the
you're destitute, you're a terrible actress as well.
But that's what the jury said.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah, it could be over.
Okay.
I thought it would.
Okay, I just couldn't wait to talk to you guys this morning. I know this came out last year in this book, Peril, by Woodward and Costa, but that it made its way now to the January 6th committee. And I think this is so relevant and interesting and important, this conversation between Donald Trump and Mike Pence, where Donald Trump essentially was telling Mike Pence, you have the power to overturn the election. And Pence said, look, I have done everything I can legally to see if there was a path here. There is no way. It is not constitutional. I have to validate this election. And Trump said, no, you don't. And he said, no, that's not my point. Yeah. When he said, I don't have the power. Donald Trump's reaction was, and he said, don't you think that you could do this? And he said, one person should not be able to do that. One person cannot do that. Trump's reaction, and I think these words, they sound silly, but I think they're so important. He said, yeah, but wouldn't it be cool for you to do it? When somebody says, wouldn't it be cool, in the face of somebody saying, I don't have the authority to, that to me is the closest to show intent on the part of Donald Trump. When you say, wouldn't it be cool, you are saying, I know you can't do it legally, but wouldn't it be cool if you did it? And then he tried to pressure him to do it.
It's the older jock trying to get his friend to, smoke weed, saying, wouldn't it be cool?
But this goes to the Justice Department looking to see whether there was intent on Donald Trump's part. And as silly as it sounds, I think wouldn't it be cool comes as close to that as anything I've heard.
I think it gets us there.
Intent of what, though?
Intent to overturn the will of the people.
Knowing that it's unlawful.
Notwithstanding the fact that it's unlawful to do so. And that's the key issue that they're investigating. What I've followed this from January 6, 2001 until today very, very closely. I learned something yesterday that struck me to my core, which is, had Mike Pence, and maybe we knew this, but it just hadn't crystallized with me, had Mike Pence just said, okay, Mr. President, and done it. Mike Pence's lawyer took the stand, very impressive. I've forgotten his name. He was on the stand yesterday testifying before the House committee for a long period of time, and he said he would have, had Mike Pence done it, and he knew it in the moment, this election would have been decided in the streets, meaning through combat. In the streets.
Right.
Mike Pence was all that stood behind his willingness to stand up to Donald Trump. And a lot of us are not Mike Pence fans. Like, he has said some really awful things in his past about gay rights and women and a whole lot of other things. He saved our democracy. Honestly, I don't mind to find a point on it, but he saved our democracy.
The Democrats on the committee are essentially saying that, and especially that he stayed in the Capitol, that he wouldn't flee the Capitol because he thought that was important. And you got to remember, I mean, it's fine to say now, well, none of the officials died from it, but they didn't know that was going to happen, and he insisted on staying, even though, and it was so weird that it was almost like he thought that the car that the Secret Service agent was driving might have been a Secret Service agent who was in the ear of the president, or who had the ear of the president.
Right.
And I think he was afraid that if he left the Capitol, that there would,
Yes.
democracy would end. And I think,
Yes.
and I think the fact that he wouldn't get in the car just shows the level of
Commitment, profiling, courage kind of stuff.
Well, but to think that maybe this
He
Secret
knew,
Service
right.
agent
Yeah.
is in the pocket of Donald Trump,
Right.
not that there was proof of that,
Sure.
but he was worried about it is really
Let me
shocking.
ask a question. I feel like we're a little bit off course. Did Donald Trump have did he want Mike Pence to not certify the election? Absolutely. I think we are there. Like, did he have
of course.
did he have a good faith basis for asserting so? I don't think so, but did he believe subjectively that
No,
in good
he
faith?
didn't.
What I don't think they have the connection to is did he organize or foment the insurrection? To me, that's a different question than did Donald Trump try to pressure Mike Pence?
But
I think Donald Trump tried to pressure Mike Pence, but did Donald Trump organize an insurrection, or was he going to be the beneficiary of an insurrection? Those are two very different things in terms of Donald Trump's culpability.
There's two elements
and I'm
of
no
the,
Donald
there's-
Trump fan.
There's two
but-
elements of the insurrection. The first is the rioters who stormed the Capitol. That's element one. Number
Yes.
two is, notwithstanding the rioters, he was ordering Mike Pence to not certify the election in defiance of the Constitution. That act in itself is criminal.
alone
But-
without
no,
an
no, no,
insurrection.
No, but you're both right. I
Yes.
mean, there are two elements to this. One is what you said, which is, was he somehow involved in the conspiracy to overthrow the government? That's clearly one. But the second is this. It's like if you know that Pence doesn't have the power, and in spite of that, try to undermine democracy, that is also, I believe, a crime that could be prosecuted.
Sure,
And
separate,
when
yeah.
you say, wouldn't it be cool? That means even though you don't have the power, wouldn't it be cool to do it?
Right.
And you're pressuring your vice president. I think that's as close as you get to proving
Yeah,
intent.
and I think Donald Trump's lawyer, who asked for a pardon and wasn't given a pardon, is now that the evidence against him is extremely strong. That he admitted to.
Oh, he knew.
Mike Pence's lawyer that it would be a 9-0 decision against him in the Supreme
Right.
Court, but he said, "I don't care. I want the vice president to not certify the election anyways."
This
the
is the
whole thing.
closest,
It's
yeah.
horrifying. It is horrifying. It is terrifying about how thin a line it was between the democracy we enjoy and complete
And
outright
and
war
I'm
in the
sorry,
streets.
and you know how I feel about Bill Maher.
You got to give him his. I was just about to say you got to give him his flowers. He said this guy wouldn't leave.
Bill Maher started saying this
Yeah.
in 2018,
Yeah.
and everybody said, because we've had this discussion, because I watch him religiously, and we've all had this discussion over the years when Bill Maher was saying it, and everybody
I said he was an alarmist. I agree.
Everybody
I
was saying,
wrong.
"Oh, come on, he's not." And Bill Maher was just on this and on this and on this, and he understood the core of Donald Trump,
Yeah.
which is about amassing power and keeping it.
That's right.
He said it early. He said this guy's not going to leave, and he tried not to leave.
He
It
said
was
it
almost
over
beat
and
for beat. He
over
said it
and
every
over.
every week on his show. He beat that drum. He said this guy won't leave. Do you want one last little bit? Did you see the part with Dan Quayle?
No.
So Mike Pence was trying to figure out whether or not he could do this, and reached out to Dan
Yeah.
Quayle. And Dan
Oh, well,
Quayle,
he's a-
living vice president who has certified an election that he lost, or that his ticket lost. And Dan Quayle, sort of a profile in courage, said, "There's no way out of this. Certify the election. What are you doing?"
Right.
And it was influential on Pence because Pence was like, "Well, there's something in Arizona," and Dan Quayle, the quote was, "I live in Arizona. There's nothing. Certify it." And I thought it was a cool moment for.
By the way,
Quayle.
my last,
Well, you don't think
my
about
wrapping
that
this. Every single witness that has testified is a hardcore conservative. There was a judge that took the stand yesterday named Judge Ludig, one of the great conservative minds of the last 50 years. And when we say conservative, we
An
mean
appellate
in the
court judge.
appellate court judge in the Ken Starr, Karl Rove school of conservatism.
Short list of Supreme Court candidates every time.
Every single time, one of the great minds of American jurisprudence. And he said what happened here was an attempt to overthrow democracy and overthrow the government. Nothing short
I
of
guess
that.
what I don't understand is,
To hear him say that was jaw dropping.
but I got to tell you, it's like, of course it was. I mean,
Yeah, but these
no.
Ludwig is as far right as you can get.
Well,
man.
but here's the problem. Of course, that's what this was about.
of course.
And I
Right.
know that there's a huge group of people, a huge group of people, almost, I don't know, 40%, whatever, that just, they don't believe this and they think, oh, this was not a riot and everything else. I mean, for anybody rational at this point, of
Yeah.
course
Yeah.
this was
No,
an
you're
attempt.
right.
It's like, it's so obvious.
We're fighting against scarecrows. Yeah.
But his fans are saying, let's move on. Why are we still talking about
I've
it?
been away, and we haven't even talked about this, but I watched the the primetime opening of this hearing. Look, I mean, it was compelling, but it didn't move the needle for, to get other. What I really thought they would do is what came out yesterday about that. What I wanted to see was I wanted to see Donald Trump in the Oval Office for those 2.5 hours. Everything you could tell me about what he did.
Yeah.
And I wanted to know the first 4 outtakes of his speech.
Yeah.
Because that's going to show people stuff this shows what Donald Trump was really about.
Yeah.
And I always thought you lead with the strongest stuff if you're really producing this. And to me, because like what we're talking about now, that came out in the book a year ago.
Right.
But this is, I'm dying to see still the first 4 outtakes where Trump, it didn't work for whatever reason. Do it again. I want to see what he said.
Yeah.
And I also want to hear everything about what he was saying when he was watching television, because there were people in that Oval Office. I want to know that. And to me, that's the lead. And it's not even so much that you're going to convince the 40%.
Yeah.
But what you're going to do is animate the people who understand that this was an attempt to overthrow democracy to go to the polls.
Yeah. My favorite part I've learned so far is that Rudy Giuliani was completely hammered on election.
Hammered, man.
Yeah.
What did he say? No, I wasn't. I was... I know.
He came up with something, but every single person who was there said the guy came in reeking of alcohol, stumbling around, slurring his words, completely hammered.
What happened to Rudy Giuliani?
He's a caricature
He
of
was
himself.
such a hero.
What
he
happened?
was a hero 21
The
years
hero
ago.
of 9/11.
The
And,
hero,
by the way,
man, on the
earned,
rubble.
not just a political, opportunist, a true earned hero of 9/11.
Crazy.
It is remarkable.
Okay, final thing, Tom Hanks. I think people have now seen this video where Tom Hanks really went off on these fans who got way too close as he and Rita were walking out of a restaurant in New York City, almost tripped her, and he turned and said, "You stay the F away from my wife."
Bring some items. I bought some items.
How you doing?
It's been a long time.
Be careful, Tom.
Watch out. Move. Sorry, man, Tom. It's been a long time, Tom. How you been?
Whoa.
Wait.
Stop it!
What are you doing?
Back the off.
What are y'all doing? People are crazy, bro.
Knock it over my wife.
Yeah, they're bugging. Sorry.
I'll tell you, 2 things really struck me about this. One is that, again, I've just seen this over the years. Everybody thinks, these celebrities are cardboard figures. That, Tom Hanks is notoriously a nice guy. That doesn't mean nice guys don't get triggered. And then you look at people who are, show much more emotion. Well, they can also be nice. And it's like people are people, and they have personalities. They don't have just one voice, they're not one-dimensional. Yeah. And I think this showed that. But the other thing is, just juxtaposing that against what happened on the Oscar night is
That's
amazing.
the most interesting thing. The way Will Smith, also triggered, went up and walked 100 feet and slapped another star in the face, versus Tom Hanks just screamed at somebody, stopped what happened, had Will Smith act similarly.
It forces you to look at the counterfactual. If Will Smith, who both shouted at Chris Rock and slapped him, it had just shouted, "Keep my wife's name out of your mouth," it would have been like almost a parallel with what Tom Hanks did. And I think he would have skated as a hero. He might have been lauded by some people. Maybe some people would have said, "Listen, have a better sense of humor. Chris Rock is telling jokes." This was obviously different. This was,
Tom Hanks felt a
a
little
pat
threatened
crush,
at
and he
this
felt
point,
sort of threatened. But it would have gone totally differently. It was that he marched up on stage and slapped him. And Tom Hanks is in full control, even though he's giving those cameramen a death stare, as people have called it. He's fully in control,
Here's the
never
other
takes
thing.
a swing, doesn't lunge.
Tom Hanks's actions were just as effective in stopping continued violations of his wife's sanctity as were Will Smith's, which is it stopped it entirely, right? Those people who he yelled at backed off 6 feet. The bodyguards came in and got in between. They were ushered away. It was just as effective.
Well, so how big was the bodyguard?
I want to disagree with you on that. I think, in a way, what Will Smith did the opposite of stopping people talking about that, because if you saw,
you think it was even less effective?
No. If you remember, some of the reaction was going after Jada, saying, "Okay, you have alopecia; it's not cancer." I'm not embracing that or not embracing that.
People were saying it was unmerited. It's just baldness.
It brought additional,
Yes,
it
you're
brought
100%
additional
right.
attacks on Jada.
It actually
Additional
hurt
Jada. Scrutiny
Yes,
of
agreed.
what the joke
You're
was.
You're right. It was even so. Tom Hanks was even more effective than Will Smith.
Tom Hanks was effective.
Yeah.
Will Smith was counterproductive.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, that's true. You're absolutely right.
It's really
The
interesting.
other thing is Tom Hanks got to act all tough though, because he was surrounded by bodyguards who whisked him away.
no,
He turned around. He
But you
gnashed
gotta
his
love
teeth a little
the
bit.
guy with the Wilson ball.
You gotta the guy who wanted to get Wilson signed was the best part of it all.
Okay, we'll see you Monday. Have a
Thanks,
good week.
Eddie.